The feedback hits me first, a low physical hum that vibrates up through the soles of my boots, through the stage, and into my bones. Then comes the heat, 1,000 bodies pressed together, radiating energy and anticipation. And finally, the sound. A roar that isn't just noise. It's a living thing, a tidal wave of voices shouting our name. Static Bloom. My name. Carson. From the darkness backstage, I watch them. A sold-out sea of faces illuminated by the ghostly blue glow of their phones. For 5 years, my band and I had bled for this. We'd played to empty bars where the bartender was our only audience. We'd slept in a cramped van that smelled like stale coffee and desperation driving 8 hours for a $100 gig. We'd poured every ounce of our lives into this dream. And now, the dream was real. Our drummer Leo claps a hand on my shoulder, his grin wide enough to split his face. "You ready for this, man? They're hungry tonight." I nod, forcing a smile that feels like a stranger on my face. "Always." I walk to my mark at the center of the stage. My guitar feels like an extension of my own body, familiar and solid. I take a deep breath, the air thick with the smell of fog machines and electricity. The house lights die, and the roar of the crowd triples in volume, a physical force that pushes against my chest. For a single terrifying second, there is absolute silence and darkness. Then a single piercing spotlight hits me. My fingers find the strings, and I play the opening riff. It's just 6 notes, 6 simple, haunting notes. But the moment they ring out into the arena, the crowd absolutely detonates. It's the sound I've been chasing my whole life. The sound of thousands of people united by something I created. A song that had crawled out of the darkest corner of my life and somehow found its way into their hearts. The song is called Marionette. For the last 6 months, Marionette has been our rocket ship. It screamed up the charts, broke streaming records, and turned Static Bloom from an indie darling opener into a national headliner. Critics called it a brutally honest anthem of heartbreak, a masterclass in lyrical vulnerability. To the world, it was the ultimate breakup song, a story of a man realizing his partner never truly saw him, that she only loved the version of him she tried to create. And they weren't wrong, but they didn't know the half of it. As the band kicks in behind me, a wall of sound that I can feel in my teeth, I step up to the microphone. The first verse leaves my lips on autopilot. I've sung these words every single night for half a year, but they never get easier. They're not just lyrics, they're ghosts. You handed me the script each day, told me all the lines to say, painted my face with a smile you owned, and sat me on a cardboard throne. The crowd sings along their voices a powerful chorus. They feel the sting of betrayal in those lines. They connect it to their own heartbreaks, their own battles. They see it as a universal story of a love that went wrong. But I don't see them. I see my old apartment. I see Alina standing by the window, her arms crossed, her expression as cold and hard as the glass she's looking through. I can still hear the dead final tone of her voice. It was 8 months ago, but in moments like this, it feels like 8 seconds. I was 28 years old. We'd been together for 4 years. A year ago, I had asked her to marry me, and she'd said yes. I thought my life was set. I had the woman I loved and the band I had built from the ground up since I was 24. Everything was finally falling into place. But the closer the wedding got, the more the pressure mounted. It started with small things. "Carson, do you really need to go on that 2-week tour? The wedding is in a few months." Then it became, "My parents are asking what you're going to do for a real job after we're married." I'd always laughed it off, told her that the band was my real job, the one I'd poured my soul into for 5 years, long before I even met her. Then came the ultimatum. It wasn't a negotiation. It wasn't a discussion. It was a verdict. It's the band or it's me. She'd said, her voice completely devoid of emotion. "You can't be a husband and a rock star. You have to choose. If you want to marry me, you have to quit Static Bloom. For good." She wanted to cut the strings. She saw my passion, my identity, the very thing that made me as a rival. A toy I needed to put away now that it was time to be a grown-up. She wasn't asking me to compromise. She was asking me to amputate a part of my own soul. I refused. Of course I refused. And just like that, it was over. She was gone. The song's chorus swells and I push the memory down, channeling the raw anger and pain into my voice. I was your marionette on a string danced for you. I'd do anything. But the wooden heart inside my chest finally broke and failed your test. Now the strings are cut. I'm on my own. And I've never felt so all alone. The irony is a bitter pill I have to swallow every night. The song that made my career is a perfect 3.5-minute monument to the moment my life fell apart. Every cheer from the crowd is an echo of the silence in our apartment after she left. Every dollar the song earns is a reminder of the future I lost. The success feels hollow, a beautiful frame around an empty picture. The guitar solo hits, and I let my fingers do the screaming. I pour every ounce of frustration, of grief, of suffocating loneliness into the notes. The crowd loves it. They raise their fists in the air, lost in the music. They think it's a performance, a show. They don't realize they're watching a man bleed out on stage every night. When the final chord rings out, the arena explodes. The sound is deafening. I stand there, panting, sweat dripping into my eyes, and I offer a weak wave. The lights blind me, and for a moment, I feel completely disconnected, like I'm watching someone else's life on a screen. Backstage, the atmosphere is electric. Crew members are rushing around, giving us thumbs ups. Our manager, Rick, is beaming phone pressed to his ear, probably closing another deal this song has handed him. Leo and the rest of the band, Mark on bass and Sam on lead guitar, are drenched in sweat and adrenaline, grabbing towels and water bottles. "Dude, did you hear them?" Mark shouts, his eyes wide. They were singing every single word, even the ad-libs from the live album. "Incredible energy tonight," Sam adds, running a hand through his damp hair. "Best show of the tour, hands down." They're celebrating. And they should be. This is their victory, too. They put in the same years, the same work. Marionette is paying their bills, changing their lives. They know the song is about Alina. They were there for the aftermath of the breakup. They saw me shatter. But for them, the pain was temporary. The success is now. For me, the two are permanently fused together. Leo comes over and slings a friendly arm around my shoulders. "You were on another level tonight, man. That solo felt like you were trying to set the fretboard on fire." He studies my face, his smile fading slightly. "You good?" I force another smile. "Yeah, man, just tired. Big show." He doesn't look convinced. He knows me too well. He was my co-founder 5 years ago. He's seen me at my best and my absolute worst. "Is it the song?" he asks quietly so the others can't hear. "Is it getting to you?" I want to tell him. I want to say, yes, it's ending me. I feel like a fraud. I'm up there reliving the worst moment of my life for profit, and everyone is cheering for it. I want to tell him that I feel trapped, that the song that was supposed to be my catharsis has become my cage. A beautiful gold-plated cage, but a cage nonetheless. Instead, I just shake my head. "No, I'm fine, seriously, it's just a song." The lie tastes like ash in my mouth. He gives my shoulder a squeeze, a silent acknowledgement that he knows I'm lying but won't push it. "All right. Well, Rick's ordering the good stuff tonight. Let's celebrate. We earned it." I nod and follow them toward the dressing room, the cheers of the crowd still a muffled roar through the concrete walls. They pop a bottle of champagne and the cork ricochets off the ceiling. They laugh and fill up plastic cups, toasting to the tour, to the album, to Marionette. I take a cup, the cheap plastic cool against my skin. I raise it with them murmur, "Cheers," and take a sip. The bubbles fizz on my tongue, but I taste nothing. I feel nothing but a profound, gut-wrenching emptiness. I'm 29 years old. I am the frontman of a successful band. I am living the dream I've had since I was a kid. And I am more isolated now, surrounded by thousands of adoring fans and my best friends, than I was when I was sitting alone in an empty apartment with a broken engagement and the first painful chords of a new song taking shape in my head. I thought writing it would set me free. I never imagined it would become the very thing that kept me chained to the past. The next few days blurred into a familiar, monotonous rhythm. Show, bus, hotel, repeat. The roar of the crowd each night was a temporary anesthetic, a wall of sound that blocked out the gnawing emptiness. But in the quiet hours on the long, dark highways between cities, it would all come rushing back. I'd stare out the window at the passing lights, the lyrics to Marionette echoing in my head, not as a triumph, but as a life sentence. We were in Chicago when my world tilted on its axis. We had a day off, a rare and precious thing on a national tour. The guys had gone out to explore the city, grab some deep dish pizza, and just be normal for a few hours. I'd begged off, claiming I needed to rest my voice. The truth was, I couldn't handle the forced cheerfulness. I was sitting in my sterile hotel room, idly strumming my acoustic guitar, trying to find a chord progression that didn't sound like a ghost of the song that was haunting me. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was Rick, our manager. I almost let it go to voicemail. He was a good manager, but his calls were always about business, a new interview, a scheduling conflict, a problem with a venue. I wasn't in the headspace for any of it. But then it buzzed again, an immediate second call. That was Rick's signal for urgent. I sighed and picked up. "Hey, Rick, what's up?" "Carson, are you sitting down?" His voice was tight, stripped of its usual upbeat, salesman-like charm. It was his crisis voice. "I am now," I said, a knot of dread forming in my stomach. "What's wrong? Is it the label? The tour?" "Worse," he said. "I just got off the phone with our legal team. They forwarded me an email. It's a formal notice from a law firm." My mind raced. A lawsuit. Had we sampled something without permission? A law firm for what? Rick took a deep breath. "The firm is Vance, Miller and Croft. They're representing a client, Alina Vance." The name hit me like a physical blow. I felt the air leave my lungs, and the hotel room suddenly felt small and suffocating. Alina. After all this time, after 7.5 months of absolute deliberate silence. Why now? Alina. I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. "What does she want?" "She wants you to stop," Rick said, his voice grim. "Carson, they've sent us a cease and desist letter." I was speechless. A cease and desist, for what I hadn't seen her or spoken to her since the day I packed the last of my things from our apartment. We had divided our assets cleanly, if not amicably. There were no loose ends. Cease and desist, what I finally managed to ask. The song Rick said, and the single word landed with the force of a wrecking ball. "They're demanding that you immediately cease and desist all public performances, broadcasts, and distributions of the musical composition known as Marionette." I laughed. It was a hollow, broken sound that echoed in the quiet room. It was absurd. "She can't do that. I wrote that song. It's my song. It's about my life." "Well, according to her lawyers, it's about her life." Rick countered, his tone all business now. "And you don't have the right to broadcast it. They're claiming defamation of character, invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress." He started reading excerpts from the letter, and each word was a carefully crafted poison dart. The clinical legal language twisted my art, my pain, my one act of emotional survival, into something malicious and ugly. It accused me of using the song to publicly harass and humiliate Miss Vance. It claimed the lyrics contained false and defamatory statements that had caused her significant reputational damage and severe emotional and psychological harm. Reputational damage. The lyrics were metaphorical. They were about control, about feeling like a puppet whose strings were being pulled. I never used her name. I never detailed specific events beyond the emotional core of the ultimatum. "This is ridiculous," I said, standing up and starting to pace the length of the room. My heart was hammering against my ribs. "She's the one who gave me the ultimatum. The song is the truth." "Her truth seems to be different from yours," Rick said dryly. "And her lawyers are painting a very compelling picture of a private woman whose vindictive ex-fiancé wrote a chart-topping hit to ruin her life after she ended their engagement. The way he framed it sent a chill down my spine. He was right. Without context, that's exactly what it looked like. A scorned lover getting his petty revenge on a massive international stage. The letter didn't just demand I stop playing the song, it got worse. There's more, Rick continued, his voice heavy. They are demanding a full retraction and a formal public apology, and they are demanding that all profits derived from the song be placed in an escrow account, pending a settlement for damages. I stopped pacing. The blood drained from my face. All the profits, Rick, that's everything. The album sales, the tour revenue. Marionette is the engine driving this whole machine. I'm aware of that, Carson, which is why this is a 5-alarm fire. He paused. Look, they know they don't have a real case for the profits. The song is your intellectual property. But the defamation and harassment claim, that's trickier. That's a PR nightmare waiting to happen. They're not trying to win in court. They're trying to win in the court of public opinion. They want to make this so toxic for us that we have no choice but to give in. I sank onto the edge of the bed. I thought back to the woman I had planned to spend my life with. The Alina I knew was pragmatic, ambitious, and at times intensely controlling. But I never thought she was cruel. This was beyond cruel. This was a calculated act of destruction. She knew what the band meant to me. It was my life's work, the thing I had built from nothing 5 years ago. That was the whole reason we broke up. She had given me the choice, the band or her, and when I couldn't bring myself to end it, she walked away. I thought that was the end of it. A clean, painful break. But I was wrong. She had come back not for me, but for the one thing I had managed to create from the wreckage of our relationship. She was trying to take the song, my story. What do we do? I asked, my voice thin. For now, nothing, Rick said firmly. You don't say a word to anyone, not the band, not the press, not a soul. Let our lawyers handle the official response. But Carson, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get messy. They've given us 48 hours to respond before they explore further legal action, which is code for leaking this to the press. We hung up and I sat in silence, the lawyer's words echoing in my head. Defamation, invasion of privacy, reputational damage. It was a complete perversion of the truth. The song wasn't an attack. It was a shield. It was the only way I knew how to process the agony of being told that my passion was a deal breaker for the person I loved. Writing Marionette was how I pieced myself back together. It was a declaration of independence, a promise to myself that I would never again let someone else pull my strings. And now she was using lawyers and legal threats to do the exact same thing, just in a different way. She was trying to control me again, trying to silence me. The door to my hotel room opened and Leo walked in, holding a slice of pizza on a paper plate. He thought you might be hungry, he said, his smile faltering as he saw the look on my face. Whoa, you look like you've seen a ghost. Everything okay? I looked at my best friend, the person who had been there from the very first rehearsal in my garage 5 years ago. Rick had said not to tell anyone, but I couldn't hold this in. I pulled up the email Rick had forwarded and turned the laptop screen toward him without a word. Leo set the pizza down and leaned over his eyes, scanning the dense legal text. I watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief, and then to a slow, simmering anger. When he was done, he looked up at me, his jaw tight. That is the most twisted, manipulative thing I have ever seen, he said, his voice low and dangerous. After what she did, after she told you to throw away everything we built, she has the nerve to play the victim. Rick says they're going to leak it, I said, my voice hollow. They're trying to corner us, make us apologize and pull the song. Leo shook his head, a fire in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. No way, we're not doing that. This song is the most honest thing you've ever written. It's the reason we're here. We're not letting her take it. We're not letting her silence you. His loyalty was a lifeline. But even as he said it, I could see the gears turning in his head, the same calculations I was making. This wasn't just my fight, it was the band's. It was Mark's and Sam's. The success of Marionette was paying all of their salaries. If this went public, if the narrative she was selling took hold, it could poison everything. The dream I was living had already felt like a cage. Now the bars felt colder, tighter. The past I thought I had put behind me wasn't in the past at all. It was here, armed with lawyers and lies, ready to burn down everything I had. Alina had pulled the strings one last time, and this time she had attached them to a grenade. The pin was out and the timer was ticking. 48 hours. The 48 hours weren't a negotiation period. They were a countdown to the moment Alina detonated the bomb she had so carefully built. I barely slept. Every buzz of my phone sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. I just stared at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every argument, wondering if there was a sign I had missed that she was capable of something this venomous. The timer hit 0, not with a bang, but with the relentless vibration of my phone on the nightstand. It was 6 a.m. I didn't even have to look. I knew. I picked it up and the screen was a blinding collage of notifications. Texts from Rick, from my parents, from friends I hadn't spoken to in months, but it was the push notification from a major entertainment blog that made my blood run cold. The headline was a gut punch. Heartbreak or harassment static Bloom frontman Carson Ramirez accused of musical revenge by ex-fiancée. It was out. The carefully worded legal jargon from the cease and desist had been translated into a juicy, clickable story for public consumption. I clicked the link, my thumb shaking. The article was brutal. It painted me as a bitter ex who couldn't handle being left, so I used my platform to publicly humiliate a private citizen. They quoted anonymous sources close to Vance, who claimed I was obsessive, and that the song was my way of controlling the narrative. My narrative, she was the one who gave me an ultimatum. She was the one who tried to control my entire life. Leo was at my door a minute later, his own phone in his hand, his face pale. "They're framing it like you're the villain," he said, the words catching in his throat. Like the song was some premeditated attack. Before I could even respond, Rick called. "Don't read the comments, Carson," was the first thing he said. "And whatever you do, do not post anything. No response, nothing." Of course, not reading the comments was the first thing I did. It was a masochistic impulse I couldn't control. It was a digital tidal wave of hate. Under the official Marionette music video comments that just yesterday were praising the lyrics, were now calling them toxic or abusive, and a classic example of gaslighting. My own words, the ones that had set me free, were being used as evidence to convict me in the court of public opinion. And then the real escalation began. That evening, Alina gave an exclusive primetime interview. I watched it from a sterile hotel room with the rest of the band, the 4 of us gathered around a laptop in silence. There she was, looking exactly as I remembered, and nothing like the person I thought I knew. She was dressed softly, her makeup understated. She looked fragile, heartbroken, the consummate victim. The interviewer handled her with kid gloves. "Alina!" She began, her voice dripping with sympathy. "It must have been so difficult to hear a song about the end of your relationship played everywhere on every station." Alina nodded, dabbing a single perfect tear from the corner of her eye. "It was surreal," she whispered. "You know, we had a beautiful love story. I truly thought he was the one, but his career, it started to take over. I just wanted a partner. I wanted a normal life. And when I realized I couldn't have that with him, I had to make the hardest decision of my life and walk away." My hands clenched into fists. She made it sound so reasonable, so tragic. She completely omitted the core of the issue. She didn't say, "I told him to abandon his life's work." She said, "I wanted a normal life." It was a masterclass in manipulation. The interviewer pressed on. The song Marionette has some very pointed lyrics. Lines like, "You loved the man but not the music," and "wanted my hands but not the calluses." How did that feel? Alina looked down, her voice trembling. "It felt like my most private, vulnerable moments were twisted and sold for profit. He took our intimate conversations, our arguments, and broadcast them to the world without my consent. That song isn't art. It's a violation. He turned my pain into a platinum record, and I never saw a dime. But it's not about the money. It's about the humiliation. I had to mute it. I couldn't listen anymore. Leo put a hand on my shoulder. She's lying, man. She's twisting everything. I know, I said, my voice hoarse. But they don't. The public didn't know about the 5 years of grinding it out in a van playing to empty bars. They didn't know that Static Bloom wasn't a career that took over. It was my identity. It was who I was long before I ever met her. She had expertly crafted a narrative where she was the gentle soul who just wanted a quiet life with her man, and I was the fame-hungry monster who sacrificed her for a hit song. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. The hashtag #SunCancelCarson started trending. Our social media was flooded with snake emojis. A major radio network announced they were temporarily pausing airplay of Marionette pending a review. We had a show in Chicago 2 nights later, and for the first time, I was scared to step on stage. When we did, there was a section of the crowd near the front holding signs. "Stop harassing women." During a quiet moment between songs, someone screamed, "Apologize to Alina." It felt like the world was collapsing. The song that had been our rocket ship to the stars was now an anchor dragging us down to the bottom of the ocean. The final nail in the coffin came the next morning, an urgent conference call with the record label. It was me, Rick, and 3 executives whose faces were grim on the video call. The head of the label, a man named Arthur Vance, no relation, thankfully got straight to the point. "Carson, we have a PR crisis on our hands," he said, his voice flat and devoid of the usual enthusiasm he had when discussing our sales numbers. "The optics on this are challenging. The optics are based on a lie." I shot back, my temper flaring. "She gave me an ultimatum. She told me to quit my band, this band that you signed, or she would leave." Arthur held up a hand. "I understand your position. I do. But right now, your position doesn't matter as much as public perception. And public perception is that a young woman is having her private life exploited. We're seeing sponsors get nervous. Radio stations are dropping the single. We need to contain this." "What does contain this mean?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "It means we need to show some goodwill," he said carefully. "We think you should issue a statement, an apology for any unintentional pain the song's interpretation may have caused. And for the time being, we strongly advise you to remove Marionette from your set list, just until this blows over." I stared at the screen in disbelief. The silence was deafening. They wanted me to apologize. They wanted me to shelve the most important song I had ever written, the song that was the very soul of our band, because my ex-fiancée was a convincing liar. They weren't defending their artist. They were protecting their asset. "So that's it," I said, my voice dangerously low. "You want me to surrender. You want me to admit to something I didn't do and end our biggest hit all because you're scared of some bad press. We want you to be pragmatic." "Carson, so," another executive chimed in. "This is business. An apology costs nothing. A canceled tour, dropped endorsements, that costs millions. Just play the game. Say you're sorry, lay low, and in a few months no one will even remember this." But I would remember. I would know that I had buckled. First, Alina had tried to make me quit the band to prove I loved her. Now the label was telling me to sacrifice the band's integrity to save our career. It was the same choice, just wearing a different suit. They were all asking me to cut my own strings to become a puppet to their demands. After the call ended, I just sat there, the weight of it all crushing me. Leo, Mark, and Sam were looking at me waiting. Their futures, their mortgages, their dreams, they were all tied to the success of this band. If I fought this and lost, I wasn't just taking myself down. I was taking them with me. The dream I was living had officially become a nightmare. I was cornered with my ex, the public, and my own label demanding my silence and my submission. I had to make a choice, and every single option felt like losing.